Good evening, everybody. Dr. Tom Palmer, Professor Abraham, Dr. Dhanuraj, the faculty and members of the CPPR, distinguished participants, friends. For me, it is indeed a great honor to be with you this evening and to interact with you later after this function. I understand that you had a good session and you also could visit some parts of Kerala. Could you visit some of the interesting places in Kerala? Hope that they didn't keep you so busy that you couldn't go and see some of these things. Okay, good. Well, you're all people who are engaged in public policy related matters as members of think tanks, as members of civil society organizations. I don't know whether there is anyone from the government. Anybody from the government? No. Okay. Well, I think hereafter Professor Dhanuraj should take care to bring in some more of these so-called bureaucrats and, if possible, political executives. The reason is simple. You may not like them, or some of you may even hate them. But it's a reality that you cannot live without them. That's a fact of life. Whatever may be the form of government that one has, you have to live with them. So it is interesting, if not a must, to have them interact with you in a much closer manner. It will help you to get a different point of view while discussing the issues that you are debating on the floor of the lecture hall. Well, friends, I'm sure that you must have been giving a whole lot of answers to several questions. I'll only ask one question, out of sheer curiosity, Why this emphasis on a research methodology in public policy? Why this? Why should there be emphasis? Anyone, youngsters? What is the objective of paying this emphasis on methodology, research methodology? Yes, sir.
I think we want to understand how things work, understand what is happening in the world so that we can take intelligent actions.
Yeah. Put it other words, it is for what? Why is that you're so keen? That means you want to gain knowledge, isn't it? But why this knowledge of research methodology? There must be some reason. What should it lead to? Why this emphasis? Research methodology. Research. What is the main purpose of it? What do we want? Yes. Exactly. We are doing this to understand how to make better policies. How to make better policy, that's the very essence of doing all this exercise. Better methodology means better research. Better research means better policy planning, better policy formulation, better policy implementation, better policy monitoring, better policy studies. So the whole thing boils down to begin with better research methodologies which helps to produce, to make better policies. That's it. So you got it. So your objective has been achieved. Good. Well, I had the good fortune, I should say, to be associated with policy making process. Often people say that senior bureaucrats, senior functionaries make policies. It's not true. People like me, who are the level of permanent secretaries to the government, they don't make policy. If you say so, it's wrong. The real policies are made by the elected representatives of people. We only assist them in making policy. We only assist. So, public policies are decided by political representatives. Politicians decide, political top executives decide public policy. It's a fundamental thing one has to understand. And then, what kind of resource that they look for before they formulate, before they decide on the policies? Here is the relevance of people like you who do research. But your research is again something different from what academic research is about. The academic research doesn't have any client orientation. It's academics. Whereas you have certain clients. There's a fundamental difference. And here makes your work difficult. As a researcher, well, I also had a bit of experience about that. You have been told, be objective, don't be biased, don't be skewed in your findings. Is it possible for a social science researcher like you? As a science researcher, where I work in the lab, where I have materials to work on, it's all true. But people like you, who the material is, the raw material is the human beings and their ecosystem, is something different. So your work is much more difficult than a science researcher. Especially if your research is oriented towards advocacy. Then essentially it has to be client oriented. And you may take extreme positions. Your credentials are in doubt. Here comes your challenge again. It is here your methodology becomes important and the significant tool to establish your credibility, your credentials. Whether it is a quantitative method or it is a qualitative method or a case study, whatever may be. Your credibility, your credentials depends on the method that you adopt. For a social scientist researcher, from my experience, I have seen that they are struggling with their data, and their effort to convince the people who formulate policies. All the while, I have often suggested that if you are a social science researcher, I would say your most significant tool is how close are you to the people that you deal with, the problem that you deal with. To put in other words, do you know the pulse? Have you ever felt the pulse of the people with whom or for whom you are required to work? This is a very significant thing. Many of the research findings that who my associates have presented, I used to get it from an elected representative, a people's representative, a member of the legislative assembly, or a member of parliament. He will just say like this, or this is it. Of course, it is getting validated through your research. But what I am trying to say is that because he has that sense, that pulse of people with whom he works, it's easy for him to come to a certain understanding of the issue, which helps in solving a problem, a situation, which is essential in a policy planning, a public policy particularly. So, if I have something to say to you, this is the first and foremost thing. Have the sense, the pulse of the people with whom you work, if your sphere is public policy research. Another interesting phenomenon which I have always found is, as a senior functionary in the government, I'm sure you must have heard about policy integration. Policy integration? Nothing great. How you integrate, coordinate various sub-actors in a total policy framework. I'll give a good typical example. It's a major policy that we should find the most effective way for achieving women's empowerment. Good. But women's empowerment, what does it mean? It has to have a variety of other sectors to contribute to it. The women and child development sector, the health, food and nutrition sector, the education sector, the legal systems, the policing systems, the land and the land related legal systems, a variety of other policies influence them. So, integration of policy integration is another major thing which you have to keep in mind while you do the research. Otherwise, you will go in this tangent and the requirement of the client is this tangent. Here assume that all these 4 or 5 sectors are trying to work together. But there can be a situation where the policies become conflicting, all the more difficult. To give a typical example, the environmental policy states that reduce pollution, good, which essentially means making the laws more stringent, rules more stringent, procedures more stringent. At the same time, the industrial policy would say we want more production, a problem of unemployment, problem of productivity. You need to give that knowledge, information to the policy formulator, the policy maker, that kind of information, knowledge, data, which would enable him. Otherwise, he'll throw it out. That's all. You may bring out anything. here is one point I would like to emphasize on an element called innovation in research methodology. You go to any research student or anyone who starts doing a research, he has a set checklist. Whether it is literature survey, whether it is field study, whether it is case study, this go on. But all the issues may not and cannot be put into this framework in a meaningful manner, for which you need to have an innovative approach. What kind of new innovative method would help in enabling the policy maker to the objective to make a better policy? Ultimately, the objective is this: how to make a better policy. Your research, your method, whatever it is, they're only tools, they're only the facilitators. That's not the objective, that's the means. So our objective is how to make a better policy, which essentially demands what kind of research methodology and research output that you are producing. Why we often hear, oh, the policy has failed. It's true. I have been accused, not only me, several people have been accused. Why are there so many frequent changes in policies? Well, we have our limitations: time, knowledge, information, data, manpower, our own inherent disabilities to analyze. Policy analysis, I'm sure it should also form part of your research methodology. Keep in mind, analysis of the policy as well as analysis for the policy. These are all things, which should lead you to the significant sentence that I said. You need to look for innovative research methodologies. That is a challenge for you. Look for innovative research methodologies which will help the policy maker to produce a better policy. I think that's the only thing that I have to say. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.